Hello, everyone. I am Kaylin from Homeschool Buyers Co-op, and I hope you'll join me in welcoming award-winning author of Revolutionary College Prep Genius and Homeschool Mom, Jean Burke. Uh, Both of Jean's children received full-ride scholarships to college, and she's with us today to share her tips for building an unstoppable homeschool transcript. At the end of Jean's presentations, we will be taking questions. So please feel free to type any you may have as we go along in the chat box, and we will get to as many as we can. Jean always shares an absolute ton of information. So just so you're not worried about taking notes, we want to let you know that after the webinar, we will send you an email with a link to some notes that Jean was kind enough to prepare for you, as well as the recording, so you can check it out at any time. So don't worry about missing any of these awesome details. And with that, I will turn the mic over to Jean.
Thank you so much, Kaylin. I appreciate it. Well, thanks everyone for coming and taking time out of your day to listen. I'm so excited about building an amazing homeschool transcript. As a fellow homeschooling mom and someone who has learned a lot over the years, and every time I learn something new, I try to pass it on. So I'm really excited because a lot of stuff I learned along the way with my kids, now they're of course adults, but I held on to what worked and added more things to it. So I'm really excited. Now, as Kayla was saying, don't worry so much about the notes. I do have a lot of URLs and links and various information that you don't really have time to take down. Plus, you might mess it up by doing it too fast, and I don't want you to do that. So I will send you, I'll give you the link on how to get the notes, as well as, you can get some more tips on getting free college. Kind of as a quick background, if you've not heard me speak before, my son 16 years ago was in 9th grade, and as a homeschooling mom family, we had no money for college as one income. And my friends wanted to, tell me, all kinds of stuff and, so much information out there. But I was at my one friend's house one day, and she said, did you know you could get free college off a test score like an SAT or ACT or PSAT? And I thought, well, that sounds interesting. I don't know about that, but let me try to see what I can do. And it was very helter-skelter. Josh and I kind of started going through some books and classes and lots of test questions and lots of practicing, and kind of a short story long, he became a National Merit Scholar, and we ended up throwing away 7 trash bags of college offers. And this was over a year's period of time. My mailbox filled up every day with offers such as full ride, free tuition, room and board, grad school. I mean, the list was crazy. And then after my daughter got her scholarships, my friends wanted to know what we did, and I wrote a book and started a program 14 years ago. And so these are just some of the TV shows I've been on, some of the networks. I'm also blessed to be a Fox News contributor. So I get to do some really fun stuff. I was just on, for the 3rd time, the Jim Bohannon show last week. And it's a great show to be on. He is very influential. He's the successor to Larry King, and he has about 245 million listeners. So that was really cool. But let's get into talking about transcripts, because the thing about transcripts is that it's kind of the culmination of our homeschooling. It kind of says, okay, we're done. Here's your completion. Now you can go on to the next step in your life. And transcripts are not just for, obviously the graduation part of homeschooling high school. But if your student is planning on going to college, obviously they're going to need a transcript. If you have a student that's going to maybe be put into public or private school or transferring from one school to another, they want a transcript. Military requires a transcript. A lot of entry-level jobs do as well. So the transcript is just going to go beyond whether your student's just deciding to go to college or not. Now, people do transcripts differently. There's not necessarily a right or wrong way. I think what's more important is the information that you put on it. Some families will do the normal transcript where you do it by grade. For example, you would have, list 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, and your subjects, and the grade they achieved and the credit. And then you have others who will do it they'll arrange the transcript by subject. So they might put all the math together, all the English, all the science. So again, it doesn't necessarily matter the formatting but more importantly, what's on it. Now, I really want to encourage you as a homeschooling parent to set goals. Start with the end in mind for your student. Some of you may have students who are just entering high school. Some of you may have kids already in high school, or some of you have some little ones and you just want to get a jump ahead. But kind of consider where you want them to be in the next 4 years, not only academically and spiritually and emotionally and all these different areas. Now, when it comes to, setting goals, as a parent, it's very important that we understand and identify our students' passions. What makes them tick? What do they love doing? Because I think that can really help us kind of tailor their transcript and their high school years to some areas, some classes or courses that can really highlight who they are. Before the first time I ever went to Shanghai to teach my class, a lady said to me, "You need to read the book, The Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mother." Now, I don't know if any of you out there have read that book or not. If you had, notate that in the chat box. But that book is crazy. That lady is something else. And it's a great read. But the premise of the book is all about the difference between Western parenting and Chinese parenting. And as a Chinese parent, she basically let her kids know that, they don't have any say in anything, that they couldn't play in sports, they couldn't participate in drama, they couldn't, have sleepovers, they couldn't even have a dog. And what they would do is they would go to school, for example, all day long. They would come home, have about a math tutor for 2 hours, and then they practice piano for 2 hours, and they practice violin for 2 hours. And even on vacation, when they would travel, she would find a hotel and rent their piano and make the kids practice like 6 hours a day. So here's what I say about that. Buy that book on tape, play it for your students, and they will appreciate you after reading that and listening to that. They'll think, hey, mom is not so bad. But it's important that as parents, we find what motivates our kids, because as Western parents, we believe that every kid is different. They have all different destinies and different plans for their life. And so we got to find what motivates them. And some of us are motivated internally and some of us are motivated externally. But we need to find that out to help our kids. And familiarize yourself with your child's passions and their loves and interests that they are involved in. You might see that there's going to be an equestrian show at the library, and that your daughter loves horses. So, sign her up, because I know she's going to learn more just because she's already interested in it. And encourage your teenagers. They are, you are their number one fan, and they need that encouragement just like they did when they were young. And the word nurture, another word for it is actually educate. So when you're nurturing your children, you're educating them. And when you're educating them, you're actually nurturing them. And then another thing too with our kids is help them to broaden their worldview as far as their future is concerned. As they're putting together this transcript, they're looking to, take certain classes, help them with those. But also, they might say, hey, mom, I'm thinking about being a doctor. Well, help them see that. Let's look at the bigger picture. What kind of field are you thinking about going into? Do you want to be a nephrologist? Do you want to study kidney disease? So it can really help that you pinpoint, and tailor your plan for them through the high school years. Now, when it comes to goal setting, I love personality tests and motivation tests, and they're not foolproof, but they are a way to get you started. And so here's a few that are online that are free: outofservice.com, richardstep.com, learnmyself.com. So again, a few that you can actually kind of just, have your student do and kind of give you a little bit more direction. Now, I want to talk about some ways that your students can gain an early edge. How can we set your students apart? Well, here's a couple cool things. And a lot of the stuff I'm going to share with you today, you probably have never heard before. So hopefully you'll be excited with some new information. So the first thing is, for your younger students, you want to check into what's called the talent searches. Now, these are programs based on various universities such as Duke University or Johns Hopkins. And what they are where your student in going into 6th into 7th grade can actually qualify for one of these programs. And what happens is your student would take the SAT as a 7th grader, and that would qualify them, and it doesn't have to be a high score, for a big award ceremony. They can get their name in the paper, they can be state recognized, and start getting scholarship offers in 7th grade. I've met some that have got full rides to college based on their SAT in 7th grade. Now, what's great about this is it puts you on the radar of colleges. It's kind of like being an Eagle Scout. 2% of Boy Scouts become Eagle Scouts. So that means they've done something that 98% of their peers could not do. Well, when an admissions counselor of the college looks on your transcript and sees that your student, for example, received the Duke Tip letter or Talent Identification Program letter, it's going to say to them, hey, this student was focused and mature at a young age. And this is the type of student that I want to come to my college. Now, to qualify for these type of talent searches, for example, you go to their prospective websites, and your student can qualify through either like a Stanford, an Iowa test. There's many, many ways to do that. You as a parent can even nominate your own child for this program. And you can even start as early as 4th grade by taking what's called the PSAT 8-9. So definitely check in to see if you have younger students. And it does go through high school as well, but you would like to start early. And by the way, if you qualify in 4th grade, then you automatically qualify for the 7th grade program. Now you still have to enroll, but you're automatically qualified. Now the second thing to help your student gain an edge and help you as a parent when filling out the transcript is that it's for you to download what's called the Common App. Now the Common App is just like it says, the common applications that most colleges use for college entrance. Now there's several other applications, but they all are very similar to the Common App. Now download that early in the high school years, fill it out, but don't send it anywhere. And the reason you want to do this is you want to see if there are any gaps in your child's education. You don't want to get to the senior year and realize that you're missing a foreign language or some other thing that you need. So this will help you to kind of tailor their plan for the high school years. Now, if your student's plan is going to be college bound, then you're probably going to hear a couple of terminologies thrown around by admissions counselors: angular and well-rounded. Well, the word angular means that your student does really, really well in one area. So I have a friend whose son was a really good golfer, started when he was very young, kind of a mini Tiger Woods, and won all kinds of awards and championships and stuff. But that's all he ever really did. So it really limited him. But well-rounded is where colleges want your student to do well in a lot of areas, because it really showcases that they can handle more than one area. They're not just single-minded. What happens now is about 25% of all freshmen drop out of college after the first year. At the end of sophomore year, 50% drop out, and about 1/3 of all students who enroll in college will actually graduate. So that means 2/3 are going to drop out, and in many of the cases still have some debt. So what these counselors know is that a lot of scholarships get wasted. And so when they interview your student or they look at their transcript or their portfolio, they want to see that your child is more well-rounded and can handle the college experience. Because the main reason why students drop out of college is the finances, and the second reason is the workload. And so a lot of students kind of breeze through high school and barely crack a book, and they get to college and don't realize there's 6 or 7 hours of studying per class per day. So they want to see that if they give your child a scholarship, that you are going to be able to fulfill it. They don't have a crystal ball, so they can't see the future, but what they can do is see the past, and that your child probably is going to be that 1/3 that will graduate with honors and hopefully become a supporting alumni. So let's talk about what they're looking for. They're looking for what they call great applicants, GREAT. That is an acronym for grades, rank, experiences, activities, and test scores, which is ultimately the number one thing they look at. Now, I'm going to break all these down for you and show you some really cool things that will make your students stand out and gain that edge. Now, first of all, when we talk about grades or GPA, you often hear a lot of terms like weighted versus unweighted. Well, what that has to do with is basically if your student has taken some high honor classes or some AP courses. But one of the things as a homeschooling parent, as you know, we don't give every student a 4.0. Sometimes we teach to the A, or sometimes the kids just don't do the work and they don't get the results because they didn't put the time in. So they have a lower GPA. And if you have a student like that, then obviously we want them to own it. We want them to say, you know what, you didn't get an A because you didn't do the A work. But there are ways to overcome low GPAs. Certainly your student can do what's called an alternate transcript. And that is where, let's say they get a low math score, but they go to the junior college and do some dual credits with some college math, and they get a higher score, then you now have that transcript to show how much they've improved. Anytime there's optional essays, that can help with a low GPA, and certainly a strong test score can mitigate those low GPAs. Now, one of the things when it comes to creating a 4-year high school plan is most colleges will use what they call the 3-tier plan. You've got your minimum, you've got your recommended, and then you've got your distinguished program. And of course, it's not big enough to show you how to on the whole screen. But what I suggest is that you shoot for the distinguished program. To have your child take the most rigorous courses that he or she is able to do. And even if you don't quite make this, you're going to fall somewhere here. What you don't want is maybe a situation where you have a son that says, Mom, I don't plan on going to college. I don't care about college. I just want to get through high school. But all of a sudden he becomes a senior and some maturity kicked in and he's like, I'm going to be an engineer. And now you're kind of freaking out because now you have to find another science and another math somewhere. So you want to just assume that your kids are going to change their mind. So this 3-tier high school plan, you can actually get it for free. If you go to collegeprepgenius.com/roadmap, you can download that and print that out, and it will show you this in its entirety. It'll also show you when you should be taking which test and what years. So that's all completely free. So collegeprepgenius.com/roadmap. Now, I want to discuss the differences and the advantages and disadvantages of getting some early college credit. Now, we hear about AP, dual, and CLEP classes. Now, the AP and the CLEP classes are created by the College Board. So the same people who make the SAT also make those tests as well. Now, AP courses are advanced placement courses. Now, these are college-level courses that are accepted in probably over 90% of colleges. Now, they are generally taken in the junior and the senior year. Now, the reason why I say generally is because they can add anywhere from 5 to 10 hours of extra homework per week. Now, if your student already has a pretty tough schedule, pretty full, maxed out schedule, then you might want to be careful on adding a lot of AP or even one or two, more than one, if you add any at all. Now, if you have a student who is, for example, proficient in something like a language in middle school, then they probably can take an AP 9th grade freshman AP class or sophomore class, okay? But for most part, most students don't take them into the junior and the senior year. Now, at the end of the year, your student would take a test in May. It's around $50 to take the test. The College Board website will tell you where you can find the ones that are given in your area. And then your student will be graded on a 1 to 5. Now, 5 is the best and 1 is the worst, but most colleges will give you credit on a 3 or above. Now, if you're going to more of a top tier or Ivy League school, you're looking more into the 4s and definitely the 5s. The College Board told me that every year 700,000 students will take an AP class but not take the test. So they put all that time and effort into it and didn't even get the credit for it. Now, The reason why colleges love AP courses is because it does demonstrate a mastery of coursework. It shows that the students really put a lot of extra time into it. It's a great way for your students to skip those courses in college. So if they've got it out of the way early and got the credit for it, then there's no need to take it in college. And of course, every time you don't take a class in college, you definitely save money. Now, for homeschoolers, there's several ways that your students can actually take an AP class. You can just go to the store, buy the books yourselves, go through them, take the test, do them all on your own, do all the homework and all that. You can take online internet AP courses, even academies like HSLDA have those as well. Or you can do what we did if it's available, and that is we had a lady in our town she was an AP teacher and taught in both public and private schools, but she loved the homeschoolers. And so she taught out of her home, always had a waiting list every semester. So it was great because it really prepared our kids when they got to college. So I'm a big believer in AP classes. Now let's talk about dual credit. Now dual credit, which is called by different names in different states. Some places call it dual enrollment, some call it early college, some even call it College Plus, not to be confused with a company formerly known as College Plus. And this again is where you basically would take high school and college at the same time and earn credit simultaneously. Now, the thing to understand about dual credit is that the college credit may or may not transfer. A lot of times the colleges will use it for more of an honors class or more of an internal placement. Now, most of the colleges will tell you whether it transfers or not, but there's a couple of really great websites you can check out as well. collegetransfer.net, transfer.org. So you don't want to go through all that time and energy if your goal is to get some college credit, and it's not going to make any difference anyway. So you definitely want to check that out first. Now, again, to get into dual credit programs, which again are generally taken in the junior and the senior year, your student would fill out an application, and they're still going to have to take an entrance exam. Even junior college, you don't get out of that. So they're going to either require an SAT or an ACT, or a lot of them have what's called their own placement test, which is generally the AccuPlacer, which ironically is made by the College Board. So the people that make the SAT also make the AccuPlacer. Now, for cost, it's going to vary depending on where you live. In many cases, some states, it's very nominal to take dual credit. Sometimes you'll get some financial help. And then there are some states that are no charge. I know for my kids, when they were in high school, there was a lot of their friends who did the dual credit. And if you were homeschooled at some of the colleges, it didn't cost you anything to take dual credit. Now let's talk about CLEPS. CLEPS, the word CLEPS stands for College Level Examination Program. Now this is a test that pretty much corresponds to a one semester class. So students would go in there and take the test, which is about 90 minutes long. And then they're going to charge you two fees, one for the test itself, and then one for whatever facility or testing center that you take it at. So that's going to vary. And they can be taken at any age. Now, the thing, whether your students are taking CLEP, dual credit, or AP courses, there's definitely advantages. Anytime you can take classes at home before you go to a university, that means you get to take fewer classes at the college, which means you get to obviously save a lot more money. If your student wants to, graduate early, it's a great way to do that. Or maybe they just want to take on another degree, another major, another minor, or maybe as an adult you want to go back and finish college and get your degree. So definitely advantages of it. But also you need to be aware that there can be a disadvantage to having too many college credits ahead of time. And that is that a lot of colleges will consider you a transfer student and not an incoming freshman, which can nullify scholarships. Now, how many is too many? I don't know, since they're all so different. Check with the college. I've met too many people over the years that said that they had X amount of, for example, CLEP credits, and they couldn't get any money. So just do your research. I always want to let people know so that you have both sides of the story, so you don't get into some situations where it's something you weren't expecting. And every family has a different path. So whatever works best for your family. Now, R for ranking. Well, here's the good news about homeschoolers. They are ranked #1, top of the class. Here's the bad news. They're also bottom of the class. And so as a homeschooler, as we're looking into ranking, what are rankings even used for? Well, certainly when a student applies for college, they ask for your ranking. It's also can help with scholarships or more honors programs going into college. Now, ironically, only 60% of high schools actually have a ranking system. And so we realize that most colleges are still, again, looking for that very holistic approach to where, they're looking for more well-rounded students. Now, as a homeschooler, you could put one of one, you could put not applicable. But one of the things that we have here in Texas, I don't know if you have it in your state or not, and that is a bill that was passed. There's a longer name for this bill. You can look up HB 944. But what it is Tim Lambert of THSC got this bill passed because in Texas, if you are in the top 7% of the public and private school that you go to, you get automatic admittance into any Texas school. Well, the problem is that where does that leave the homeschoolers? Well, this bill that got passed, the 944, HB 944, says that as a homeschooler, whatever SAT score you get is comparable to whatever somebody else gets in that top 7%. So for example, if let's say a certain college, the average score for the top 7% is 1,100 and your homeschooler gets 1,100, then they are considered the top 7% with that automatic admittance. And then of course, as a ranking, again, your strong test scores can overcome any obstacles when it comes to, being a homeschooler and not having a certain rank. Now, let's talk about experiences. When these admissions counselors are looking at your students' transcript and their information, their portfolio, they want to see that your students can not only have a great GPA and test score, but they participate in some leadership opportunities. They have some honors. Maybe they worked at a part-time job or play sports or receive some awards. This just shows that they can handle the workload because most students drop out based on that very reason. Now, I want to show you when it comes to honors, 3 prestigious awards that will make your students stand out. And here's the great thing about it. My friend says that when you walk across that stage, you should look like a Latin dictator with so many medals around your neck. So I'm going to give you some that very people even know about or even apply for. Now, the first one is called the President's Volunteer Service Award. This is an award where, believe it or not, you can start your kids at 5 years old. And this is where your students will go in, they will do volunteering, and based on a 12-month period, depending on how many hours they volunteer, will depend on what level that they receive. Now, in this 12-month period, if you get certain levels, you will receive presidential recognition. You'll receive that personalized certificate, medallion, or that medal around your neck. And you also receive a congratulatory letter from the president. So this is the President's Volunteer Service Award. Now, the second award is called the Congressional Award. This is where your student will set goals in 4 areas: personal development, physical fitness, exploration, and volunteer and community service. Now, at the end of the time frame, if they meet the highest standard of the Gold Medal Award, they will be invited to Washington, and receive this medal from Congress. Now, I have lots of great stories, but I'll give you a couple of them. I had one of my teachers in Houston, her daughter was interviewing for college, and the admissions counselor was pretty not into listening to her because she's a homeschooler, and he kind of was sitting back and has arms crossed. And she happens to say, "Oh, and I received the Congressional Award." And my friend said that the guy stood up, sat up in his chair, came to attention, and his whole demeanor changed. And he said something like, "In all my years to interview students, you are the first person to receive the Congressional Award." Another story, a lady, and this is on my Facebook page, a lady heard me speak at Abilene Christian back when her daughter was in 7th grade. And I talked about, this award, and she said they went and signed up for it. And her daughter when she received the award, she was the first person in her district in 13 years to receive it. So she got lots of media coverage, and she ultimately got a free ride to college. You know, it's great to volunteer, but to get a national award for volunteering is something that, you know, can make our students, you know, get on the radars and just have that edge that other people don't have. And then to find out more about it, you can go to congressionalaward.org. And the earliest you can start this one is at age 14. Now, the last one I want to talk about is the Citizenship Medal. This is based on, again, more community service. You know, you're already doing that anyways with the other things, the other awards that you're applying for. But this one is one also that shows your civic responsibility. And, you know, we live in a situation right now in a society where a lot of times the kids think the world owe them something, and they think it's all about them. But when your kids can demonstrate the character and the courage to go out there and promote citizenship and a positive attitude toward other people, and get rewarded for it, it's something that speaks volumes about our kids. Now, the A in activities. So I want to tell you sort of the inside secret of what admissions counselors are looking for when it comes to them viewing your students' activities. And that is, they want to see activities in 3 different areas. They want to see like an academic activity. So for example, maybe your student is planning on being an engineer, and maybe one of their activities is doing like the math bowl or something that, what is it they live and breathe? They want to see that. And then the community service activity, which is, you know, being out there and letting it, you know, go along with whatever your child's degree might be. For example, if they're planning on being a doctor, you know, are they volunteering at the hospital? And then a personality activity, something that showcases who they are. If they love art and they're out, you know, teaching kids, young kids on how to draw, something like that. And then one thing we'll go into on activities is how to put together your 4-year summer plan, you know, how to put the volunteering and awards into your portfolio, and how to showcase those. Now, when it comes to volunteering, you know, we want our kids to realize that the world has a lot of needs, and there are people who are so much less blessed than they are. And I think volunteering is a great way for our students to get out of themselves and out of their comfort zone and to go out and help other people. So whether you're, you know, involved in Habitat for Humanity or Meals on Wheels, or, you know, volunteering at Vacation Bible School or whatever, you know, we want our kids out there doing something. Some of the websites that can help you get started, dosomething.org and volunteer.match.org. But again, all this information will be on the notes that you'll get from the link I'm going to give you in the end. Now, when you volunteer, you want to keep a spreadsheet of your volunteer work. You want to notate the place that you volunteered, how many hours you worked, who the supervisor was, and get a letter of recommendation on his or her transcript about volunteering on their letterhead. So that you can put that in your portfolio with your transcript. And a lot of places will even allow you to count driving time as volunteer work. So your students might drive 30 minutes to the hospital to volunteer and 30 minutes back home. Then they can add that into their transcript as volunteer work and added hours. Now, admissions counselors are not dumb. They know there are students who just pad their applications with a bunch of volunteer work. You know, like an hour here, an hour there. You don't want to do that. You want to show real commitment and real dedication. So maybe your student volunteers every Tuesday after school at the local animal shelter, and they've been doing that for the last 2 years. Or maybe your family goes over to Uganda and helps build houses for the poor, and you've been doing that for the last several years. So they want to see that. Now, there's also volunteer vacations like Global Works or Discover Corps. There's also programs that you can volunteer as a family, such as the Clean Up the World program or the UN Environmental program. Your family can get what's called the homeless shelter directory, so that you can actually go in and look through it and see what kind of needs there are for your family to come in and volunteer throughout the whole year. Now, one of the things about volunteering too is, besides that it's teaching our kids how to have character and and how to help others, you can receive scholarships for volunteering, not only for getting to college, but there are also scholarships for those who continue volunteering even after they're in college. Now, I want to talk about the 4-year summer plan that we want to add to, anything outside of our transcript goes into our portfolio. And this is where your kids can use the summer to gain an edge over other students. And what they can do during the summer, excuse me, is to get involved in some campus programs, local campus. It doesn't have to be the school they're going to go to, but a lot of times they have free labs available. And the summertime is also a great time for your student to get involved in some goal-related jobs or internships. My cousin Eddie was, as a young child, always wanted to be a doctor, a pediatrician, because he really loved kids. And he went to college and he went to med school and did his residency and internship and all of that. And you know what he realized? He realized that he loved kids, but he didn't like sick kids. And so there's a huge difference. And so he went on to become a family practitioner. So your daughter may want to be a veterinarian because she loves animals so much, but put her around some sick animals and it might be a different story. So the summertime is a great time to kind of figure that out now without wasting a lot of time and money down the road. The summer can also be used to enjoy some enriching activities. Your kids could do some independent studies. They could maybe write a book or do some online writing classes or choreograph a dance. But keep in mind this, we want our kids to be kids. So we're not saying use the whole summer for academics. What we are saying is that downtime is important. They definitely still need to be kids. They still need to set limits, and still, honor dinner time and lunchtime and not get too obsessed over things and, go on vacation, that sort of thing. And then, of course, the T in great is test scores, which is the number one thing that colleges look at based on rankings. And so the great thing about test scores is every college takes SAT or ACT. It does not matter. 100% of colleges will accept either one. Now, they are about 99% the same test. What happened back in 2012, when David Coleman took over for the College Board as a new president, it was the first time in history that more students took the ACT than the SAT. Not a lot more, 1.8 million to 1.7 million, but David Coleman, being the new president, said, we don't want to lose a piece of the pie here. So he actually hired ACT writers to rewrite the new SAT. So this is why they're very similar, and there's a crossover of information that you can use from one test to another. Now, both are used for college entrance, and both are used for scholarship money. Now, if a college does prefer one over the other, they will convert the score. So if your student got a 1340 on the SAT, that's the same as a 29 on the ACT, or vice versa. But the good news is that the same strategies work on both tests. We have students who've raised their score, SAT 700 points. We've got kids who've got as high as a 36 on their ACT. When I was in Corona, California at the beginning of this year, the lady who hosted my class, San Marcos, she said that her daughter received a full ride to college. And what they did was they super scored her highest ACT math and her highest SAT reading to give her a full ride. So that was a really pretty cool thing. Now, as a homeschooling mom and knowing what I know now, I think it's very crucial that you add test prep as just another class in school, because this is what's going to get your students into college and give them that scholarship money. You definitely want to start preparing earlier if possible. We have 6th and 7th graders who do our program, but 9th grade at the latest. Now, if you have older students, they can still do very, very well, but you want to create a test-taking skills class because you can keep taking it and improving your score, and you can use it as an elective on your transcript. So you can call it test prep or test skills or SAT prep. Now, the beauty of test-taking is that there are no penalties for taking the test over and over again. SAT, unlimited amounts of time. And based on score choice, you never have to send the scores in until you're ready to send them in. So that's why it does not hurt your child to take it at the earlier grades. Plus, based on the fact that most colleges will super score, or in other words, they'll take the highest scores from different tests. You definitely want to keep taking it until you get your desired score. Now, once your student has got the best possible score, you can put that on their transcript. You can add the best scores. Not only, of course, is it going to be used for college entrance and scholarship money, but for us as homeschoolers, it adds credibility to our transcript. Because, a college could look at your transcript and say, well, how do I know you did not make that stuff up? And of course, they don't know that. But that high test score actually overshadows, anything that, you may or may not say on your transcript. And for the most part, this is true for all schools, because a 4.0 at one high school is not the same 4.0 at another high school. Every school weighs and calculates their scores differently. So the only fair way a college can compare homeschoolers versus public or private schools students is a test like an SAT, because it levels the playing field. It's the great equalizer. And so, ultimately it can cover that multitude of sins. So if your child doesn't have, obviously a ranking or have a lot of experience or activities, volunteer work, that test score can, help to mitigate all that. Now, you'll notice right here, these are the minor differences between the two tests, SAT and ACT. There's not a lot of differences, and there's a crossover of information that works on both. So reading basically tests the same thing, except ACT has one more answer choice. And then, of course, the grammar and writing test the same thing. The math pretty much tests the same thing. Now, there's no science on the SAT, only the ACT, but you don't have to know one iota of scientific knowledge to ace that science section, because it's really like the reading section on the SAT. So there's some minor differences. The biggest differences are the types of essays that they give you. Now, here's why most students do terrible. If you'll notice right here, basically in red is the timing. This is why most students don't do well, because they spend too much time. But basically anywhere from 36 to 52 seconds to 60 seconds, 47 seconds, 75 seconds. So, basically not a lot of time. And, with that kind of time constraint, you're not going to finish if you do it the normal way. So, but we teach you, the shortcuts. So, and I'll show you some in a moment. Now, is everybody out there familiar with the new CLT? This is the classic learning test. This is an alternative to the SAT and the ACT. And as a homeschool, you're going to find that the the test, I'm a little jet lagged, y'all. I've been traveling nonstop since March, just got in from California and about to head to Michigan. So anyway, I travel everywhere to teach and speak. But you're going to find that the CLT is, you're going to have more of the Western traditions that your students are more used to, like passages from C.S. Lewis or Charles Dickens. Now, it is offered 5 times a year, and it is your students will take it on their own device, like a laptop or a tablet, and you get the same day results. Now, the CLT is offered in about 150 plus colleges right now, accepted, like Liberty Christian and Patrick Henry, Hillsdale, Bryan, Wheaton, Baylor. And the great thing about the CLT is it's used for college scholarship as well as college entrance. Now, to find out more about the schools and more about the test, I recommend that you go to cltexam.com. Your students can take a practice test as well as the real test. Now, we're very honored that the CLT company partnered with us, College Prep Genius. We are the only test prep company that they recommend. We have written a CLT program, which will be out in the near future. And when your students go onto the website and they do a practice test, have them use this partner ID code CPG18. Now, what that does is that actually enters them into, they have various drawings throughout the year for like Apple Watches. But if your student takes the real CLT and uses this partner ID CPG18, it will cut their tuition in half. So instead of paying around $50, it cuts it down to about $25. Now, because we're talking about transcripts, I can't really get into this a lot, but the CLT-10 is the new game changer. Your students can get scholarships and have 3 opportunities to get scholarships based on the CLT-10. It's completely free and proctored by the parent. If you want to know more about that, email me or call me, and I'll give you more information about that, but that's a whole nother seminar. Now, when it comes to filling out the transcript, you can actually do something kind of fancy like this. You can type it up on your computer. There's a lot of good programs out there. My friend Janice Campbell has a book called Transcripts Made Easy. She always sells out when I tell people that. So if you get that, let her know I told you. She doesn't ask me to endorse her. I just do. But what's more important is what's on the transcript and how you fill it out. Now, you want to always make sure that you type it. Don't handwrite it in if you've got a pre-made one. And no more than 2 pages. Anything outside the 2 pages will go into your notebook or your portfolio. And then always complete it in full. If there's something that does not apply to your student, definitely you want to put an NA, not applicable, because sometimes you could get your applications rejected based on a college thinking that you did not finish or it was an incomplete transcript. Specify course title. Instead of saying something like junior history, you might say 16th century medieval 11th grade history or something like that. Always include your best test scores. Do notate down if it's state course equivalent. And definitely add the graduation date. In a lot of cases, you're sending in your applications and your transcripts in the first semester of the senior year. And as a homeschooler, you may not even actually know what date your child is going to graduate. So always come up with like a good homeschool day like June 3rd. Believe me, they're not going to come knock on your door to see if your child actually graduated on that day. And then not all colleges require it, but it's kind of professional looking to have it signed and notarized. Or you even better get a family seal and use that in its place. Now, anything outside the transcript, you're going to put into like a portfolio or kind of a high school notebook. That's going to be things like, a copy of your transcript, your best test scores, your 4-year academic plan and summer plan, any letters of recommendation that your student has accumulated based on volunteering in various areas, all their extracurricular activities, honors, their volunteer service record, all that. And this is a great keepsake for them when there's all said and done. And do start early. The great thing about being a homeschooler is that we are flexible. And so, if you haven't filled in some things, you can always come back in later and add it in. And, do encourage college. College is not for everyone, but it is a stepping stone onto bigger and better things because your students kind of enter college as kids and come out as adults. There's moms out there to set the alarm and tell them there's a paper due and research coming up and a social event coming up and all of that. So definitely something that many kids do take advantage of. And then, there's a lot of ways to enhance your transcript and your portfolio. I go into a lot more in my book, High School Prep Genius. But you definitely want to add in any honor societies that you're involved in. If your child is very talented in sports or music, you could make informational videos or CDs, DVDs, also put them on a YouTube channel if you get media coverage. But there's a lot of ways to go on from there and really make your students stand out. Now, ultimately, it comes down to your test scores when it comes to, if you're going to college or looking to get scholarship money. And for us as homeschoolers, that test score is what lends credibility to our transcript. It's our validation. Not that we need validating by anybody, because we don't, but it's what does it. And like I said, you can use test prep as an elective in your homeschool. When you're put it along with your math and your science and your English and everything else. Now, I love to teach you shortcuts on how to beat the test because most students don't do well. And so this question here, if you look at it, you've only got about a minute. So notice you can eliminate 5s, 7s, 9s, and 11s. And there's your answer, 3/13. The reason why even students who are really good in math often do terrible on a test like an SAT, PSAT, or ACT is because the questions are purposely misleading and the wrong answers can be very tricky and very easy to pick. And so students can learn to discern the patterns on the test because you can't study for the test, but you can study the test itself and the patterns that they use. And so our program, what it does, it teaches you how to answer these questions in 30 seconds or less. So another pattern that we teach you in our program is this one here. This is taken from the writing section where students are given 4 passages, 44 questions, and 35 minutes to do it in. So you've got about 47 seconds to read the passages and answer the questions. And logistically, there's no way. So what we say is, look, notice the pattern here. This is what we call think vertically. Notice 1 has a comma and 2 do not. 2 have a period and 1 does not. So the answer that has the most in common with the other answers is the correct answer. So there's patterns on this test, and there's another pattern on this section here where you can answer most questions in about 10 seconds once you understand the pattern. And now this is another math one. Even though your student may be good in math, a lot of my math students tell me it's their lowest SAT score because they spend way too much time working out the problem the long way and they're just burning up the clock. So notice this question here. It's what I call the scary scenario. Again, students don't have to work this out, although most will try to spend several minutes trying to do it. But notice it says for all value of X, what is the value of C? Well, C is the coefficient of X, so it replaces X. That means you can eliminate all terms that have nothing to do with X. You can eliminate X squared, X cubed, D, and that leaves you with that right there. So all you have to do is FOIL only what you need to FOIL, the O and the I. 3 times 4 is 12, 7 times 8 is 56, and that gives you 68. So this is the kind of strategy that we teach your students on how to ace the test and get free college. The higher the score, the more money they're going to get. So start early. Start early on your transcripts. Start early on test prep, because ultimately the SATs can determine where you get to go to college and who's going to pay. Our dilemma went from how to pay for college to where in the world should my son go to because he had so many offers, because it ultimately makes the colleges look good. And over a lifetime, it can really add up to a lot more in income based on that degree. So the 5 P's of success are proper preparation prevents poor performance. And all this will be in your notes. So don't stress too much about getting it all down. So bottom line is this. As you're putting together the transcript, don't forget the test scores, because colleges receive their national rankings based on scores. So the higher the score, the more scholarship money they're going to give you because you make them look good. 85% of colleges will admit and give money just simply based on a test score. So definitely something that should be a priority. And the thing about what we've been doing for 14 years, we've had students, and I say 600 points, but last semester we had a student go up 700 points on their SATs. We teach your kids not only how to cut their time in half, but we also show them why the right answers are right and why the wrong ones are wrong. That way they can self-correct any mistakes they're making. And as I said, as an elective, you can give your kids credit for it. If you do it in a semester, it's about 1 hour a day, 5 days a week for 12 weeks. If you've got younger students, they could spend 2 or 3 weeks on just one lesson if they want to. Or if you got older students, they can double up. Now, here's why I'm such a big believer in test prep and test taking skills being a part of every classroom. And that is because your kids are going to be tested the rest of their life. Not just getting into college and getting scholarship money, but at their job someday. Or if they're going to go on to grad school, they're going to take the GMAT or the GRE. Or if they're going to go to law school, they're going to take the LSAT or the MCAT for med school. But these are tests that people have said, hey, the strategies in your program actually worked on these tests. And that's because most tests are written very similar. There's one objective, indisputable answer, and then there's several distractors. And so strategies can help you to discern and be able to eliminate the wrong answers and not second guess yourself or overthink the question. Here's what my friend says. He says, the truth about success is this: an average person doing above average work will always outperform an above average person doing average work. So true. And in today's society, if you've got an above average student and they're doing above average work, imagine the results. I mean, you can't get upset for the results you don't get for the work you don't do. And test prep is an investment. You know, you pay now or you pay later exponentially. The average student spends 20 years paying off college loans or 2 decades of their life. So we're really blessed to have won a lot of awards. We tell everyone, you know, College Prep Genius, don't just take our word for it. We've been around for 14 years. Go read independent reviews about us. Definitely go to Kathy Duffy's website. She has a full review from this expert there about our program. We also won an award for being in the top 10 best programs by a company called thebestschools.org. This is actually a public school website that gets about 1 million hits a month on it from kids from all across the nation. Now, definitely, you know, High St. John uses our program. We've got a review from this Old Schoolhouse magazine, Mike Smith of HSLDA, and we are the official test prep for HSLDA. So we do work for, you know, do our program for them. And do go watch video testimonies of life-changing information that people have, you know, again, gotten free rides to college, Ivy League schools, and raised their scores hundreds of points from collegeprepgenius.com/testimonials. So I'm really excited to have partnered with the Homeschool Buyers Co-op. And what we're offering right now on our comprehensive e-course is a 21% off. It is now $149 through their program. They're also offering you 1,500 smart points for buying the program. You know, this special actually ends in a couple days. It's been running for a little while, but it's going to end on September 12th. You'll get a coupon that you can redeem within those 20-day period. And I'm excited to share with you that they have given me an extra bonus to give to y'all today. And that is they're going to take off an extra 10%. So if you go here to homeschoolbuyerscoop.org /college prep genius, and there's some dashes in there, of course, then you will get those and get the College Prep Genius program on how to ace the SAT and ACT and PSAT. Then you'll get it for that 21% off. But if you do it today, by this evening, tonight, 11:59 p.m., before it turns over, obviously, to the 11th, you can get an extra 10% off. And so the code that you would use, it would be 4T4RJT. That, along with, you know, getting that 21% off already, as well as those 1,500 smart points. Now, I have the code down at the bottom so you can see it. Now, what you're going to get in this program, in our online e-course, it's very mom and dad friendly, so you don't have to do anything. I've created the syllabus, the homework guide. I've done everything for you. Your student will just follow it daily. It's designed for 12 weeks. You can certainly do it longer or shorter. Every day there's about an hour worth of work, 5 days a week for 12 weeks. You'll get the homework guide, the textbook e-reader and workbook download PDF. You'll get my journal for success and templates and all of that. It's a 1-year access that starts the day you purchase it. It's, again, we have a baseline score that your kids can take before you get started and take the same one afterward to note how much they've improved. Now, the bonus that comes in with this comprehensive is besides our program on how to beat the test, you also get these vocab book series, e-readers. These are fun, wholesome books that will teach your students 300 SAT level words in every book. Fun, they're wholesome, and you can use it as a literature credit as well as a creative writing credit. Again, that goes in with a comprehensive program that you're going to get with the Buyers Homeschool Special, Buyers Co-op Special, and then an extra 10% if you purchase today. The second bonus that you'll get in the comprehensive is my 15 Secrets to Free College. Lots of information that you have probably never heard of before. You know, how to go to Harvard for free. Basically, the 400 colleges that will meet up to 100% need. The FAFSA mistakes that people make and lose out on that free money from the government. Just a ton of stuff. Again, through the Buyers Co-op, and extra 10% off today only. And then you also receive my High School Prep Genius book. Now, a lot of the information we talked about today about the transcript comes from that book, plus a whole lot more. This is like having a personal guidance counselor, where it's going to show you, starting in 4th grade, what to do. But once you get to high school, every month of every year, so you don't miss any deadlines. It shows you how to do applications and essays. If you have a student who's going to med school, it can show you how you can skip the MCAT, get money, and finish in 6 years with your undergrad and med school. It also has information about more information about transcripts and high school notebooks. Just a great resource. Kathy Duffy has reviewed it. It won the best resource, Blue Ribbon Award for the best resource. And so I'm so excited to give you all this information. So now I know you probably felt like you were drinking from a fire hose. So you got a lot of information, but don't worry, the notes, you can go to this link and they'll be sent to your inbox, collegeprepgenius.com/homeschool transcript. And that will give you those URLs, those links, those prestigious awards, information, more elaborate information that I could go into. And again, remember, our program on how to beat the test and get all those extra bonuses expires in 2 days. To get the extra, it's the $149, which is 21% off. And then you also get the extra 1,500 smart points once you go to their website. And then today only, up until 11:59 tonight, if you purchase the program through the Homeschool Buyers Co-op and you use the code 4T4RJT, you will even get an extra 10% off. So thank you so much for taking out your time to listen. And if I didn't answer any questions in the seminar, certainly you can email us at info@collegeprepgenius.com.
Wonderful. And Jean, do you have a few minutes to take a few questions that we're getting in?
I do.
Wonderful. So the first question was regarding those transcripts with volunteer activities. What is the value in putting the amount of hours spent versus just having a list of activities?
So putting the amount of hours shows not only that you didn't just make a list, but you also had, it shows you how much time you actually put in it. Because when you create that spreadsheet, you know, you're listing the person who was your supervisor, their contact information, as well as the time that you put there. And so it just lends credibility that, yes, you did actually go work for Habitat for Humanity, or you did work for 2 years for Meals on Wheels. And so anytime you can add extra information about not only where you worked, but how long you put it in, just validates what you did.
Wonderful. And what program do you recommend for PSAT test prep?
So the PSAT and the SAT, that's a really good question, because a lot of people don't realize that both tests are created by the College Board. And the only difference between the two tests is 15 minutes. So in other words, the PSAT is 2 hours and 45 minutes long, and the SAT is 3 hours long. So SAT and PSAT prep are exactly the same. And there's no essay on the PSAT. But so when you're studying for one, you're studying for the other. So our program basically covers the SAT and the PSAT.
Wonderful. And is there an age you would recommend that a student start with College Prep Genius?
So it varies. We have 6th and 7th graders who do our program. But having said that, there are a lot of 6th and 7th graders who are not ready to do our program. And I think as a parent, you know your own child better than anyone else. 8th grade is a really great time. And I would say 9th at the latest. And the reason why, the sooner you start, the more time you have to improve, because you cannot get time back. And as your students get older and get more into high school, they're going to get busier. So they're going to take on more work, more school, more homework, maybe a part-time job. Maybe they play sports, friends, clubs, church. There's so much more. And it becomes more difficult to squeeze it in later on.
Thank you. I'm afraid I'm about to show my own ignorance here. So if I mispronounce this, I hope everybody will forgive me. But my student has taken the CLEP tests during the summers in between semesters. Apologies, this is a new one for me. What's considered a strong test score for the CLEP test?
So I'm not real familiar with the scoring on the CLEPing. I know that you get credit on a certain score, but I think there's, I can't remember, 30, 40 different tests that you can actually take. And it probably is going to vary per college. So since I don't do CLEP, I know there are companies that teach you about CLEPing and stuff. I don't do that. So I'm not real familiar with a score that would get you credit. But I will tell you that it's definitely going to vary depending on the colleges. Just like the AP course, a 3 on one AP test might get you credit for one college, but a 5 will get you credit for another one. So I think it's always best to check with the school.
Wonderful. And then College Prep Genius, if it's purchased by a family, is that good for just one student, or can multiple students use the subscription?
No, we are definitely not out to gouge families. Being a homeschool family ourselves and not having money for college, we can totally understand. So yes, all your students can use it. Now, some people do buy a separate one for each student. That's totally fine. But the only thing you'll have to do is each student will have to keep their own progress, because it only tracks the first student. So if one student's on lesson 7 and one is on lesson 4, then they just need to keep a track of that.
Awesome. And then this will be our last question, because we're running a little bit low on time. How do you prepare students with difficulty taking tests, but who have great academic ability?
So we hear this hundreds of times a week. Parents will call us or email us and say, hey, my students top 10% of the school, or maybe even valedictorian, and they have a 4.8 and they're in all honors and AP classes, yet they keep bombing the SAT. Well, the reason why that is not because their child's not smart. Obviously, it doesn't reflect their GPA at all, because the SATs and ACTs are a different skill set. And they're based on logic and critical thinking skills, not based on your IQ or what school you went to. And the questions are very purposely misleading. So the way that you beat these tests is you learn the recurring patterns on every test. Every test uses the same patterns. So that's why you can't study for the test itself, but you have to study. You can't study for the test, but you study the test itself. And so the more you practice, the more you see the patterns, and the more you stop falling for the trick answers and second guess yourself, and the more you become very proficient and gain that mastery. It all comes with practicing.
Wonderful. Jean, thank you so much for your time. You always just give the best webinars, and I can see that our members are always so appreciative. Just as a reminder to everybody, and reiterate what we said at the beginning, Jean has webinar notes at collegeprepgenius.com/homeschool transcript. We will also email that link out, as well as a link to where you can watch the recording of this video either later today, hopefully, or tomorrow at the latest. In addition to being able to watch this webinar on demand, we also had the founder of the CLT, Jeremy Tate, do a webinar for us last year. I saw there were a couple questions about the classic learning test that came up when Jean had mentioned it. So if you're interested in learning more about that, I encourage you to check out that webinar. And last but not least, you can get College Prep Genius at the Co-op for a limited time through 11:59 p.m. on Thursday at 21% off. And then as an added bonus for people attending this webinar only, if you use that coupon code that is up on your screen, 4T4RJT, by 11:59 p.m. Pacific time tonight, you will get an additional 10% off that already 21% reduction. So apologies, that was a lot of information to get out there in just a minute. So thank you, Jean, so much. Thank you, everybody, for attending today. It's always a pleasure to share our afternoon with you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.